It's very possible that you could have a parent-to-parent conversation, right? Oftentimes that parent-to-parent conversation is maybe during objection handling. You're each passing judgment on each other. There's the adult-to-adult conversation, right? That's where you've agreed to do things and you're just figuring out the logistical next steps. What's going to happen next? What's the next phase of the process, right? And then there's the child-to-child. The child-to-child stuff is really, really fun. Obviously, they're excited to talk to you about your product. You're excited to talk to them about what they're doing. And all of a sudden, there's all this excitement. The challenge with child-to-child conversations, though, is that oftentimes two kids can't always make a decision about what to do next. So I'm going to pause there for a second. I don't know if there's any questions. If there are, we can go forward. We can start to ask them. If not, I'll continue on. Cool. All right, let's go forward. So here's what these conversations really look like. There are times where your prospect is in a parental tone of voice and you're in the child tone of voice, right? This is oftentimes, think about it in some ways, if you're a brand new rep, you're day one on the phones, right? And you actually get someone live on the phone for a conversation, we often feel a little intimidated, right? And we unintentionally put people higher up on a pedestal than we should, right? That happens quite a bit in sales. It also happens, you could be a very experienced salesperson. I run into this sometimes, where someone's coming in with a really negative or bad attitude, right? And they're coming in to really just sort of, no matter what you say, they're just combating you every step of the way. If we're not careful, we'll default to the child ego state. That's because we were raised in a family for 18 or so years being told what to do and how to do it, right? So that tone of voice, it's almost like Pavlov's dog. It almost brings out this sort of emotional piece into you. The obvious thing to do is if you've got someone who's in a parent ego state, you certainly want to try and become into an adult ego state, right? See if you can use rational conversations to get them to respond and change their frame of reference. Oftentimes you can have the prospect as an adult and you're the parent, right? The adult in that scenario, the prospect is an adult trying to weigh pluses and minuses. As a parent, you're using your nurturing parent tone, trying to explain the process, explain the product, not be condescending, right? Again, there are times where they're being an adult and we're being a child. That often means that we might be not knowing what we're supposed to do or where we're supposed to be headed because we don't want to do anything to mess this up. Oftentimes they can be the child and you can be the parent or the adult. This often happens if you're having a conversation maybe with the end user of a product or service, right? They're super excited to do it, but they don't necessarily have the clout to make a decision to even get you in front of other people, but they're really excited to see what you do. So you're using somewhere between hopefully your nurturing parent and your adult ego state to move them through the process. Now, oftentimes this is what a real sales conversation looks like, right? All these ego states are flying by, going back and forth all at the same time. So I want to make sure people understand that these ego states, once someone's in an ego state, they don't stay there the whole conversation. Rarely does that happen. And literally it can change within moment to moment, right? So the purpose of this part of the conversation today is I just want you to understand what people are going through in their head. What's going on behind the eyes, right? Can we read their mind? No, but we can start to understand where they're coming from and what their approach is. And hopefully over time and practice, we can adjust. What I do want people to understand is that we definitely don't want our prospects to have that critical parent tone, right? They could be nurturing parents. They could be telling you about their process and how to go through it, but we want to be conscious of that. And I want you to be conscious of making sure that when you hear that critical parent tone, that you don't automatically move into the child zone, right? That you move into that child ego state of weakness and fear and concern. And ultimately, this is what we want. We want an adult to adult conversation on a regular basis. That's where we want to be. We want to try and have those conversations. Those other ego states are by far going to enter. They should enter the child ego state, being excited, the nurturing parent ego state. All those things should come in there, but you've got to have that adult ego state there to get you to move forward from one stage to the next.